So, hello viewers and welcome to podcast 24. I'm Bilko.
I'm Brewery.
And we've got a treat in store for you tonight. I'm not going to lie, as usual, in interest of transparency, this is after the event.
Yep.
What?
Superb, absolutely superb. We had Dookit Brewing Co on, Harry Weskin, who's the sole proprietor of the brand and brewer. Absolutely fantastic, honestly. Keep watching, keep talking, fire in questions after the event onto social media, because I'm pretty sure if he's following and take up Harry on social media, he will respond, because he's producing great beers in Glasgow and lived up here for 2 years, and he's really taken on the ethos of Glasgow. He loves the place he stays, and he's got great dreams, he's got great ambition, and it was an absolute pleasure to speak to him there for a couple of hours. We could have went all night, and in fact we should have really went all night, Bilko, but we've got real lives that we need to move on with, and that's got in the way of having a right good session with somebody who we've just met for the first time tonight, and I'm sure I'm going to have a pint with him again. So
100%.
Follow on and keep watching, because you're in for an absolute treat. Dookitbrewing.co.uk. Harry, great guy, absolute pleasure actually to speak to him, and so informative, great life story, great stories behind all his beers, and just watch.
But don't forget also to like and subscribe to the channel. Without further ado, here he is. Here's Harry for Dookit. So hello viewers and welcome to podcast 24. We have an exclusive tonight. We're really happy to have you on the show. He's here already. It's the man. It's from the south side of Glasgow via London. It is Harry from Dookit Brewing Co. So welcome to the show, Harry.
Welcome, Harry.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Obviously, we had done a wee bit of a Dookit test run via Kieran on podcast 22. We absolutely loved the treat yourselves. Fantastic. I do apologise, Harry. I described you as a sour brewer at that stage, and I was he does more than sour. So I'll get that out of the way right away. Sorry, right? I made an arse of that.
I don't know. You weren't wrong. You were 50% right. You know, at that point, I've only brewed 2 beers, so. I mean, yeah. Pretty much just at that point, I was just a sour brewer and a pale brewer.
Now, what we're going to do is we don't mess about in the show, so we're going to actually open up the SQUEAKER with you. And we don't expect you to score your own beer, mate. Me and Brenny are going to open up. We'll get a wee chat about the SQUEAKER just in a wee second or two, mate. But initially, mate, can I just ask you, are you having one as well?
I'm going to have one as well. Yeah.
Get in there. So.
Gonna remind my taste buds.
So while we're pouring this, Harry,
purely quality control here, quality assurance, making sure that across the batch every beer is the same.
It's a lovely colour. This.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's
quite dark.
Yeah, it's quite dark, and I think that's what it throws a lot of people straight away. It's like, oh, I thought this was a table beer. Because predominantly table beers have been really pale in recent years, but I thought I'd make one a little bit darker.
Aye. Smells amazing. Might as well just taste it.
Aye.
Oh, that is smooth. Oh.
Yeah. No, I'm really happy with that one.
Oh. I can totally see, man. I'll tell you something, man. I'd sesh that, Brenny. I'll tell you that straight away. Not even started yet.
I think that's the idea.
Absolute class. So, just for the viewers, Harry, to let everybody know, can you tell everybody, how you get into brewing, where it all kind of started for you?
Yeah, so many moons ago, fresh out of college, 21, 22, so going back a fair few years now, I got a job in a local pub, and it was one of the first community-owned pubs in London, the Ivy House, around the corner from where I grew up in southeast London. And it used to be an Enterprise Inns pub, and then it was bought by the community, which meant it was completely free of tie, and it got in so many different beers at the same time as, so this is 2013, 2014, a lot of the London breweries are coming up. I mean, Colonel and Beavertown were already fairly established in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
We were getting them in with stuff like 4 Pure and like the 2-3 years I was there, just, you know, the craft beer kept on like scene in London kept on booming, and around the country kept on booming, and we just kept on getting beers from up and down the country, and just my excitement just grew from that, you know, getting the beers in, ordering them in, maintaining the lines. And then I thought one of my closest mates down there, he got a job. He worked at the pub too, and he moved on to a job at a brewery. And that's when I started thinking, oh, maybe I can get into like the production side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a great 12-barrel brewery that we got a lot of their beer in at the pub called Canopy.
Mm-hmm.
Canopy Brewing Company, now just called Canopy, in Herne Hill, which is where I was born. So, and then a job opening came up, very like entry-level warehouse operator, you know, with a few assisting on with driving, assisting with the brewing. And at that point as well, I got a 100-litre homebrew kit, and I brewed on that quite a few times and got into that with 3 other mates. And then, yeah, I was at Canopy for a couple of years and studied for my GCB there, and just got more and more into the brewing side from the warehouse side. And they kindly kind of encouraged me to do so, and got my GCB through them. They sorted that, so that was great. And yeah, then then moved up here after realizing that a brewer won't be able to afford a house in London. That's for sure. So yeah, we moved up a couple of years back. Yeah.
So you were really there at the beginning of it all, I suppose, particularly down in London. So you've been there for the whole kind of the craft scene, etc. No, that's exciting. You've arrived in Glasgow. I love the fact you've came from South East London and you've came down through the southeast, south side of Glasgow. And when you popped up here, I mean, was there many Dookits down in London? You know, down in the southeast, any Dookits kicking about?
No, I never heard of the word. Yeah. Until I moved up here. You see, my mum's Glaswegian. She grew up in Eaglesham. Oh, she moved down to London pretty much the same time as I moved up. As in, you know, same age as I moved up here. So I'm familiar with like lots of the vernacular, but you know, actually, you move up here and you realise there's tons of it. So, and as one of the, I mean, I'm an English literature graduate, so language is a big thing for me. And when we had a little housewarming party, and our mate Joanna saw a little, what I would call an alcove, being an Englishman, and she was like, "Oh, you got a wee Dookit," and I was like, "Say that word again. What's that?" A Dookit. I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then that was my introduction to the word, and it just kept on popping up like the more I stayed here. And then cycling one day, saw the Dookits in Yoka, and I thought they were just like so extraordinary. And I know a lot of people would say they're just really ordinary and just run down, but I just think they're beautiful because they're just like completely like alien to me, you know. So yeah, it just kept on popping up like left, right, and centre really.
I've got a great Dookit story that I'm going to tell right now quickly, Bilko. So my friend Brian Fee, his first ever house he bought up in Thornley Bank, right? So it was a wee quarter villa and a wee sort of really tight terrace, new build, wimpy place with a tiny garden in the background. He's only ever seen the plans yet. He could only go and see it at night. He never really thought anything of this. So he goes and visits it at night, sees it twice, puts an offer in because it's really good value. First time he moves in, opens up the curtains in the back because the curtains have been shut. He opens up the curtains in the back, there's a Dookit right at his back window with his neighbour. And he's like, what the hell? Do you know what I mean? It's like a proper, fully fledged, the guy just races pigeons. Do you know what I mean? And that was what he was into. So I was howling when I seen the actual Dookit branding and whatever else, you know. Absolutely brilliant. Just reminded me of that wee story right away.
So, yeah, that's it. And like the more you talk about the word and with every like Glaswegian, they have their own story about them. So I think it's like a very Glaswegian thing, which I really liked about it.
It's a huge thing. I mean, I used to have a friend in the family that you know, fancied the doos, as they call them, raced them very successfully. But I think the word itself's got a lot of connotations. You know, you go dooking for apples, the wee dookets, you know, your wee recess where you chill out, and obviously, that's fantastic. So I was going to ask you why you called Dookit Brewing. I kind of think you've kind of answered that there.
It's my girlfriend. She just said, like, back in the summer when I started, you know, similar to your guys' podcast, I was kind of twiddling my thumbs a lot, and I had a part-time gig getting me by. But I just thought, oh, if not now, then like I should just do it, right? So that's when we went on a cycle and saw all these Dookits, and that night my girlfriend was like, oh, why don't you call it Dookit Brewing Company? I was like, oh, you know what, that's... Jeez. And then what I really liked about when I learned a bit more about the Doomen and the people who, you know, the history of Glaswegians meeting up and racing them, and even like a little shop dedicated to meeting up and trading the birds and everything. It was a proper cultural thing that still is, but maybe not as prominent. And then it's just like the idea of like a couple of guys meeting up in like quite a small setting and just shooting the breeze. And it's quite a humble pastime. And I saw a lot of parallels with home brewing and brewing in general. And then I just got carried away with it all, you know, and just thought like, oh, if I open, you know, the aim of the ambition, the dream is to open a little micro pub here in the South Side and call it the Dookit.
Brilliant.
So I thought like, oh, you know, that makes sense too. It's just like a little corner micro pub, similar to a Dookit. And who knows, maybe we can have like we can build a wild fermentation vessel in the shape of a Dookit one day.
Absolutely brilliant, Harry, man.
You have to stop me there. There's a lot of bullshit in that.
That's a class story.
Listen, let me dream. We've all got your dreams of where we're taking things, and that sounds like a dream that if you actually want to do that, it would be brilliant. And I'm pretty sure everybody in the south side of Glasgow would love to go to the Dookit.
100%.
Oh, brilliant.
It does sound exactly the ethos of the people who you're living with.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
So,
cheers. Well, hopefully you'll get an invite to the opening night in a year's time or so.
That's what I like to hear.
So, any of the viewers watching just now and you hadn't heard of Dookit, the website's dookitbrewing.co.uk. We're going to put up all the socials as usual for Harry, and we'd urge you to follow him on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You know, check out his website. It really is good. We're going to touch on things later on the show as well regarding the branding, etc. But I just want you to go back, Harry. You've got your 100. I like how he just threw that one in, Brenny. He got 100 litre. Know what I mean, kit? Know what I mean? None of this nonsense we're doing. But you got that, and you were obviously see any of the first beers that you were doing back then. I mean, are you still making those beers, or have they evolved into these beers that you have?
Yeah, so that was about 5-6 years ago. Me and my 3 mates down in London, still really close with them, started homebrewing as like a hobby, and we were really ambitious as well back then, thinking, you know, we would open our little thing down there, but for whatever reason, you know, jobs, different projects got in the way, and to be perfectly honest as well, when you're working 9 to 5 in a commercial brewery, and also Canopy was very manual, so it was pretty knackering. I think the idea of then on Saturday and Sunday home brewing as well felt a bit like a busman's holiday, so it kind of fell by the wayside for a little bit. But back then we were trying to brew pales and everything. You know, IPAs that we love like the Colonel IPA, Gamma Ray, 4 Pure Session IPA, the list goes on. But I don't know how you found it. I mean, you held up a beer there with your was it a clone recipe you made with a chroma seed, is it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a friend over in Copenhagen, and he'd actually found the recipe. Don't know how he managed to get hold of it. It was quite a rare find, actually. He's done his take on that, and as you say, it's a beer that you really like, and probably like yourself, you want to make what you like, so to speak. So
Yeah,
yeah, gave it
yeah.
a go, but you know, I mean, I must admit, I mean, it was an 8.5 out of 10 beer, Harry. So just putting it out
It
there,
looks
you know,
it
it was a
looks
quality
amazing.
beer,
Yeah,
and that's Brenny talking, not me.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
But
yeah.
very true. That's very true. I scored it quite highly.
yeah,
As I say, it's a mate and all that. You know, you don't want to put him off his first beer.
Have you still got it there? You still got some in the glass?
I've got no. This is your beer I'm
That's
drinking, mate.
your beer. This is your
Ah,
beer we're
right.
drinking.
Aye,
Well, for the listeners, when you held it up when we started, it was a beautiful color. So I mean, and this is the thing. Like back when we were first starting up all those years ago, we found it difficult on a homebrew kit to brew a decent pale ale that stood up to the likes of the best pale ales at the time, because I don't know, you probably haven't found this because yours look great, but discoloration due to oxygen pickup,
yeah,
I think that's a big thing at a homebrew scale. And I think back then, I think that maybe put us off a little bit just starting up, because I think pales seem at first like it could be the easiest, but then they turn out to be the hardest ones to brew.
yeah. We found
So
that.
yeah, still brewing like those old recipes a little bit. But to be perfectly honest, like the homebrew, as I said, fell by the wayside back then. And then I didn't really pick it up until lockdown again, like properly. You know, I did it once in a blue moon, but got really into it again at the start of lockdown 2020, almost just over a year ago. And then just got really back into it and got into brewing little sours. I brewed a little lager on the homebrew kit. So yeah, that's the same 100-litre homebrew kit down in London that the boys down there let me ship up the road, because it was just being stored in a damp cellar in a pretty sorry state. So I'm quite glad I rescued it.
Brilliant.
um,
Are you still
yeah,
using that kit? Is that? Are you, I mean, I know we're going to come on to what you're doing now, but have you got that kit up here now?
yeah, I got the kit up here now, and I brewed the Treat Yourself, both the first and second batch on that at Ride Brewing Company. So I took the homebrew kit along to it and brewed it there, because you got to brew it there for licensing reasons. And they've still got it there actually, and they've brewed a couple of beers now on it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So you're up in Glasgow. You know you've taken the plunge. You've got into it during lockdown. You need to obviously find somewhere to do it. So we've seen on your website that you ended up using, you know, suppose they're pretty legendary amongst the Glasgow scene. You've went to Ride Brewing. How did that come about? How did you get yourself in there?
Yeah, so a bit of fortune really, and a lot of kindness. So Dave Lanigan, who runs Rye Brewing Company, he was the first brewer. Him alongside Simon Tardable, when he worked with Rye Brewing Company over 2 years ago. They were the first ones to say, "Hey, come on in," you know, because I was messaging loads of people like, "Oh, you got any jobs going?" Da da da. And they were the first ones to get back to me over two and a half years ago now. So I went along and I met Dave, and he was a lovely bloke, and we became friends. And then it was at the Barras Beer Bash back in September, the delayed beer festival that was finally took place in some form in September. And Dave, he won't mind me saying this, he was half cut. I mean, we all were. It was a beer festival, and he told me about his expansion plans, and he was getting a 5-barrel kit with five barrel fermenters. And I was like, "Oh, that's great, Dave. That's really exciting." And he was, you know, he said, "Well, if you want to start something, then come along, and you know, you can have one of those tanks, because it's going to take a while for us to like pick up demand." And I couldn't believe it. I was like, no, he's having me on, and you know, he's half cut, and but true to his word. And I don't know why I was surprised, because he's a true gem, very kind guy. Next morning, text him. He's like, "You serious about that?" He goes, "Oh yeah." So yeah, that kind of put the gears in motion really, and encouraged me to get the brand together, get the recipes down. Yeah, and at the time I was working alongside a mate who was still down in London, an old friend of mine, and he was going to come on board as a partner, but unfortunately he got a bit of cold feet, and so a lot of the recipe development in the early stages of autumn last year was between the two of us. But yeah, a lot of kindness, a lot of
you've
help
lucked out
as well. Yeah,
you've lucked out there. So big props to Dave Ride for that. Fair play to you, Dave, there on that. So yeah, it's a great story there about how you're tied up with Ride, and we'll touch on other things about the branding, but we do want to talk about this beer before we finish it, man.
I know we're getting to the stage where me and Bilko have nearly drank yours. That gives an indication of where we're going with the story. So during this chat, we've been having to hold ourselves back from finishing it.
Loving it.
I appreciate it. That's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely.
So, SQUEAKER table rye session. Tell us a wee bit about that, please.
Yeah, sure. So I've always wanted the challenge to brew a table beer. It's one of my favourite styles. Down in London, we used to drink Colonel table beer whenever it was on tap. If you see it, we're in there. That's it. On the session, 3 or 4 pints easily.
Yeah.
And I think their table beer is probably, in my opinion, well, actually, New Barns lately have brewed a really good one.
Yes, agreed.
And a couple of ex-Colonel brewers there as well, so there's no surprises there. And so, as a style that I love, I really wanted the challenge to try and brew one. And then my mate Phil at Simple Things brewed an excellent one as well. And you know, he put me onto this great article by Michael Tonsmere, who wrote American Sour Beers. And he's got a really, really helpful article if you want to try and brew a table beer, even at homebrew level or commercial level, whatever, or even just learn about them. Because it is such a challenge to try and create that body that alcohol usually does. And with more alcohol, you could add more flavor. You could add, more. You usually can increase the hopping, and maybe a more interesting grain bill as well. But there's nothing to hide behind when you're going quite low. So yeah, I found more and more I read about it, I really wanted to give it a go. And I was quite conscious of loving the Colonel table beer, so I didn't want to create a complete clone, which made me feel, made me think about, how can you play with the style a bit? And I looked a bit into the history of it, and I mean, the only real defining feature is it's low ABV, and it used to be drunk around the table. Maybe with the kids would have a small glass. So I mean, the craze the past 10 years, if not longer, is to make them really pale. And yeah, you could argue that, make it pale, make it as easy drinking as possible, not big flavors. Just similar to table wine, nothing too big, nothing. Yeah. So, but I kind of wanted to, bring malt back into the equation and try and make a bit more of an interesting balanced beer between the hop and the malt flavors and aromas. So yeah, that was the thinking behind it. And to be honest, the rye is definitely taken on a more prominent position in the flavor profile. I'm not sure if you're getting it, gents, but a lot of people have said, and I'm definitely getting it. It's quite a rye smoky finish.
It's very smoky on the finish on the palate.
Yeah. So this was me going a little bit overboard with the rye, probably because you add rye, you add oats, and that gives the perception of body in place of alcohol. So I think if I was to brew it again, I might just rein it in a little bit. But I don't know. Sometimes I drink it tonight, for instance, and I'm like, you know what? I really like that kind of rye smokiness.
I do.
I think it's
it tastes a lot stronger.
Aye.
Than it should be.
Yeah. It does.
And that's I think that's what I like about it, because you said a lot of the traditional table beers are that sort of middle of the road, just don't really taste anything. They've not got much body. Whereas it's got loads of body, plus you've got that dry smokiness with the maltiness, which gives it the flavour. And it really is something that you seem to lose out on the paler versions of the table beer that I think you've got nailed. And it really is. It's hitting the mark for a low ABV beer that you could drink all day or all night and just really enjoy it at the same time with a flavour to it. So for me, you've hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't be wanting to adjust too much. because it really is. It's quite unique, very unique, in fact.
It is.
Which is
cheers.
There's a lot. There's quite a lot of fruitiness in the taste, I would say, as well, Harry.
Yeah. So I kind of went to like the lower bracket of hopping schedule for an IPA. Like something, I think it was just about 6.5 grams per liter, and it all at the end. So like a hop bursting technique where you fill the hops towards the end, just so it's hardly bitter.
Mm-hmm.
It's not much bitterness to it at all. I think it's around 25 IBUs, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I kind of wanted it to be hop, like the table beers I really liked. And I've never really brewed a Azacca before. And from the descriptions and also beers that I've had with Azacca in it, I thought this is a really interesting hop. So I get lots of tangerine. A lot of people get the apricot. And so what I do like that it's like apricot in colour and in smell. Mm-hmm. But then like a couple of people say Azacca gets this like spicy mango note. I don't really know what spicy mango is. I've never had a spicy mango. But to be honest, with the rye, I think that does come out a little bit. Like kind of just maybe not like a spicy like hotness, just like almost like an earthy spiciness.
Mm-hmm. Almost like an earthy salsa, almost like an earthy salsa. I could maybe exactly. When you mentioned the spicy mango, I was like, well, no, there is a wee bit of that in it. I didn't know what it was, but now I'm thinking about it, it's like sort of maybe just that spice of fruit. I can get where that's coming from now that you mentioned it.
Yeah. Oh God, nice. Yeah. Because I could. Brilliant. Well, it's there then. Definitely spicy mangoes.
As man.
Definitely a new one on me.
As indeed. So, listen, Harry, the moment of truth has arrived. Now, we're not going to ask you to score your own beer, all right? But the viewers will tune in to see what they think. So, you ready for this? You strapped in? So, Brenny, for the purposes of editing tonight, big man, you want to go first?
I will do. So, would I session it? Yes, I would. It's a perfect sessionable beer. The ABV on it is exactly what you're looking for if you're looking for a long, all day, have a few beers, chew the fat. Went down really well. So I think the obvious taste test has worked. Score-wise, quite nervous about doing this. Obviously, I've never done one live in front of a brewer before, but I'm really happy with it. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a cracking beer from start to finish. It's held its body, held its taste, and I'm really, really happy with it. And I would buy again as well. So I'm going to give it an 8.7, Bilko.
Brilliant score, big man. Brilliant score. So, Brenny, I'm just going to. I'm not going to kind of do the X Factor build up tonight. I'm just going to say straight away. I'll buy that again, man. Buy that beer. There'll be a list of stockers where you can buy it. Buy that beer. Perfect for the summer. If you want a session rye table beer, you want it to be moreish and see that hint of rye at the end, that smokiness, just makes you immediately want to pick up the glass again and have another one. So buy again, yeah. Would you sesh it? Aye. This beer is tannable to the extreme. So, score-wise, Brenny, you're a wido, by the way, because I was right. Do you know something, man? At the risk of sitting on the fence with Brenny, in fact, do you know something? I'm going to give it an 8.75. A class beer. So, just where we normally do this, I hope you've got some left, Harry. Give a nice wee cheers to the camera, to the speaker table, right? Cheers.
Cheers.
Nice one.
So I'm glad we got that. We'll just keep the camera rolling. I'm glad we got the scores in there because I tell you something, man, I wish we'd have get 2 of these. Honestly, absolute brilliant. One thing I would like to really touch on, and I think it's important. Now, I know through your history there, you kind of touched on it a wee bit earlier. One thing that's stunning about your whole branding is the artwork that's involved in it, Harry. I think it's really eye-catching. The logo itself, my Coots Graphics, our designer, was like that. There's three pigeons in that design, and she pointed at Dookit, looks like a pigeon. You know, we'll have it prominently throughout the show. But what's even more stunning, I think, Harry, is what I really love is you seem to pick local artists You know, we loved on the treat yourself. We did notice. I'm just going to have to look at it, but we noticed you had Hazel Dunn and also Fran Gordon in your previous ones. Before we I think you've kind of know where you're coming from with the main logo. You kind of touched on that earlier, your influence, etc. But the actual artwork itself for this, I mean, this squeaker. I mean, it's like obviously it's not a do you've got on it. But I mean, how do you choose these? How do you decide? You know how you're going to go with? How does that come about? All the art on it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, thanks very much. Thanks for picking up on so much of the details as well. That's a work all worthwhile. Yeah, the artwork idea. I mean, I guess it's you know, far from new, putting artwork on beer labels, but it's definitely something that draws a lot of people to craft beer and keeps their interest as well in a different way as well. Because yeah, I mean, like as a brewer yourself, like you get geeky about the different techniques, or like the different like historical techniques, or like the science behind it all, and the arguments behind the science or whatever, and all the different factors that come into making a beer, like a good beer, and a great beer, a great. But then there's also this other side of just creation, right? There's this side of on the brew day, you're making a tangible product, something that people can respond to immediately and say that's good or bad. You know? So I don't know, that idea of like creating a beer. There's a lot of parallels there with art. I think, and at the risk of sounding a little pretentious, I think you know there is a big parallel. But I just wanted to have a bit of fun as well. Don't want to get too highfalutin about it. My girlfriend Fran Gordon, she's an artist, and so that was a bit of a no-brainer for me. Being help out with the first artwork, and that one was just a lot of our sidewalks, you know, all the different shapes up, like Lynn Park and Queen's Park, all the Campsies, Dungoyne, the hills, the clouds, everything like that you see, you know, that we love about the south side. And then yeah, Hazel Dunn's artwork is great. A big influence for us, and I say us as in me and Hazel. So Hazel's not only the artist behind that artwork, she's also the designer of the whole brand.
Wow.
So I met her back in the summer. Sorry, I'm going off a bit of a tangent here, but met her back in the summer. Another bit of serendipity, and she was looking to get into graphic design, and then got in contact about helping with the brand. We off as well, and she's just been great ever since. And she designed a logo after me rambling for ages. You can tell I'm good at that. And you know, she put together this like great little logo stuff. And then talking about like beer brands that we absolutely love, one that came up again and again was Partisan. Again from my old neck of the woods in South East London, Bermondsey, right by the Den.
Yeah.
But yeah, their brand, you know, well, yeah. Yeah, so Alec Doherty, the artist who designed Partisan and continues producing artworks for them, you know, love his stuff. And you know, when you see an artwork like your stuff,
so I've got a wee art story. I've got a wee art story to share with you about Bermondsey.
Yeah, go for it.
So do you remember the Neil Harris mural? Neil Harris mural under the bridge on the way into the Den.
Millwall legend.
There was a smaller version of it that my pal done, my pal Whizzywig. Kieran, as he's known, with his graph art, stencil art, and Kieran did this mural. He done the mural of Neil Harris along with two other boys, Pat Campbell and another boy who I don't actually know, but
yeah.
So you had the Neil Harris image, and Network Rail last year painted over it. And the Millwall fans were absolutely apoplectic about it. For obvious reason, because it was a big focal point for taking kids along. Neil Harris, bit of a Den legend, and so Kieran was recommissioned by Millwall supporters to do it, but he done it 4 times bigger. So he's done it 10 spot, he's done it 4 times bigger. So it's an absolute brilliant image. I'll send Bilko. I'll send you the image Bilko, so you can tag them into the actual as we're talking about it. But so I've got a good friend down in Deptford, doing that way. I beat the Deptford Arms and stuff like that previously, back in the before it turned into a paddy power. And the heart was ripped right out of the community. So I've been down to Deptford quite a bit in my time down there, so I know South East quite well.
Oh, no way.
Cracking community,
I lived right by the Den for years. My first flat was overlooking the Den.
Right.
It was an interesting time of my life. Yeah.
What I loved about it is people spoke to you. You know, people spoke to you. You went into the pub and like the Jamaican guys, like heard my accent straight away, and it was like, "Hey, Jock," you know, and you're just like, "Man, you know, you get the interaction." But I mean, they're not meaning it in an aggressive way at all. It's just about talking to you and just finding out why you're there. What are you doing down deep south, as they were saying? I'm not going to try to put on a London accent, but it was really interesting. A lot of similarities with Glasgow, I felt, whenever I was down there. Like people are very, very similar. Like, a lot of Irish as well, a lot of Scots. But it was really nice every time I went down, and I've been doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
But that was my wee story about the image and the art.
That's great. I love to see that.
The thing is, it is a small world. I mean, I've got a friend, Daniel Burton, friend of the show, who's commented on some of the videos as well. Daniel, if you're watching this, heads up, and he lives down in Bermondsey as well. So it's cracking, Harry, having not known you, and you're from that neck of the woods. And obviously, you always want to keep the Millwall boys sweet as well, don't you? But let's move on.
Definitely.
What can I just touch on your answer there, Harry? What I find is fantastic is I think that the artwork that showing it up again, and we'll be linking, as you know, to everything, and it's on your website. Really crisp images. Apologies, obviously, I don't know you. I didn't know Fran was an artist. Fantastic. As we've touched on a Hazel as well. I think that really does add to it. It really does suck you in, and sometimes it makes you've got a really good kind of mindset towards the beer before you've drank it, if it is presented well. And so hats off to you for getting that. I think that's something you've nailed as well. Without kissing your arse, mate, you've nailed
that. Cheers.
Yeah. And bring it up.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a kind of, it's definitely like a fun thing,
Your stubby bottles, is that something conscious with you? Is that something that you've consciously went with the wee stubbies?
Yeah, so the story of these, I wanted to control like the product from start to finish, and I could have gone with cans and everything, but I think it's a combination of two things really. I wanted to bottle it just for whatever happens with the business in the future. If I get into my own space, I definitely wouldn't be able to afford a canning line anytime soon. So I wanted to like start where start where I want to continue, if that makes sense. So if I move into my own space, then I'll be able to keep the brand in the Stubby bottles because I'll be bottling. And so that kind of made me decide, right, I want to do bottles. And then I'm talking to a lot of people, namely like Phil actually at Simple Things, who went with bottles. And when I met him and saw his brand, I really thought, oh yeah, you can make bottles really stand out, if just as much, if not more, than cans. And after chatting to him and some other brewers, I think the argument, or the very kind of lazy argument, that cans are better quality because of this and this and this, I think that's a little bit tenuous, or like it's just been repeated quite a lot with not much basis. Because if your quality control is good, you can and consistent, most importantly, you can produce just as good bottled beer than as canned beer. And I know a lot of people have like strong opinions about that, which I'm really interested to hear about. But yeah, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent again with the idea of the study.
That explains exactly, because as a brand, you stand out on a shelf. And that's
it
ties in exactly with what we've just been talking about with the artwork and the actual, because I identify your branding now with colourful artwork and the stubby bottle, which is it's unique to yourself at the moment, and that's where I like it, because it is quite unusual. You get stubby bottles elsewhere and whatever else, but not with that artwork on it and not standing out, and you would know that's one of your bottles before I took it off the shelf. I wouldn't have to look at it. I would go, that's Dookit.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's exactly what you're looking for. That is exactly what you're looking for.
That's it. And that's exactly what I was going for. But also with the Stubby, I think you've already touched upon it, is the association with cheap supermarket lager, like we've all had.
Well, the wee 10 packs you used to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get quite a few messages from guys and saying, thanks for making me feel like I'm 13 again, having like cheap lager in my parents' garage. I'm like, I remember those. You buy it in a big, like,
the beer dolls. Yeah. 10 beers for £4, although they were only 250ml. These are 330ml beers. 330.
There you go. Yeah.
The second beer of the night is the. I don't know if it's safe to say this. I don't know, might be having nightmares, but it's a BEELZEBUB. It's a 5.9% porter. Now, we bought this at the wee beer shop, obviously. Neil, good friend of the channel. You've seen me advertising with our glassware, etc. So kudos to that. But where else can you buy the beers, Harry?
So I got them in most, if not all, the go spots now. So starting with like the south side, you got Marchtown, you got that little shop across the road as well, the Sass store, Grunting Growler, Curious Liquids. Got them in a local key store, so when you made it, when you get in key store.
You do.
Amma, who runs my local key store, has been brilliant. Actually, been really, really sound.
I went to school with
He's full of stories. He's full of like amazing. He told me this amazing story. Right, he's quite proud of his collection, as he should be, because it's in the making. And he tells me the story of all the Germans coming over when Germany was playing Scotland at Hampden. And so he got really excited about it and got in the Augustiner. He got in like some fancy Kolsch's. He got in some Dunkels. He got all German beers. And do you know what they drank? All these German fans, these thousands of German fans. Do you know what they drank? Tenenslager.
Oh man.
Yeah. Which and they're like, yeah, well, we get this back at home. Why would you drink this?
Exactly. When in Rome. Now I have to say, look at this. Look at this bad boy.
Nice one.
That looks amazing.
That looks stunning, man. That is everything you expect in a porter. Let's get this.
Nice one.
On the nose, it's incredible. I mean, we're even tasting it. I already know what I'm going to be tasting. Just that is.
5.9%. That's smooth, man. It's getting everything you want. It's getting the raisinish, hint of chocolate. Sorry, mate. Sorry, we keep forgetting we've got the guy that made it on, Brenny, man. Here I'm giving the credit. So, you carry on.
The coffee's just brilliant. It's the chocolate, almost a hint of coffee, just fantastic.
If you could tell us a wee bit about the BEELZEBUB, actually, that would be good, Harry. The wee story behind that would be nice as well.
Yeah, sure. So this was the first beer of the year, and I wanted to brew a dark beer for the tail end of winter to get us through to summer, to spring, first of all. So yeah, I thought I really wanted to tackle my first commercial porter. I'm not a dark beer drinker, but I absolutely love them, and they always surprise me when I drink one. And I think there's been nights where I have one really good porter, mainly go towards porter, but sometimes stout. And those nights are more enjoyable just drinking one really good porter or stout, rather than drinking like several lagers or pales, because it's a beer when it's really good you can just sit back and appreciate it. So anyway, I wanted to brew one, and coming from London, as we touched upon quite a bit, and definitely sounding like it still. London porters are a thing, and I mean they've been a thing for centuries, but getting into beer down there, and again, Partisan's porter is really good. Colonel do a really good porter. I mean, and off the back of that, actually, there's quite a lot of porters that have just come up left, right, and centre. I mean, moving up here, there's been some excellent ones. I think one of the ones I really liked was Cromaties, really good porter, and that was I think that was the 10 malt porter. And that's one that got me thinking, oh, you don't have to just brew with like several malts, and yeah. So I'll come on to that in terms of how many malts are in it, but yeah, I wanted to kind of challenge myself to brew a pod, but it's even a bigger challenge up here because of the water. And Glasgow's water, as you know, is just like beautifully soft. It's brilliant for making a lager, a Pilsner style specifically. In fact, if you look at like the Glasgow water profile next to Pilsen water profile, there's a couple parts per million difference. It's really close. So it's beautifully soft and not ideal at all for making kind of stoutier beer. So I wanted that challenge.
Sorry, Harry. Can I just jump in? Did you have to change the water? Did you have to add anything to the water to make this?
Yeah. So I was thinking how I was going to harden it, because that's what you really want to do. Basically, you just want to harden it and give something for the malts to hold on to. Basically, so generally speaking, you want to add gypsum for a maltier beer. And you want to add chlorides if you want a hoppier beer, because chlorides accentuate the hop profile and gypsum accentuates the malt profile. So that's a kind of like rule without getting into it too much, because I can't remember half of the science. Let's be frank about it.
Don't worry, it's fine when you're on our heads anyway. Don't worry about it.
You know, it's half in there, and it's half in here. And,
well, I appreciate that.
So yeah, you got to be honest. So yeah, I mean, reading up about water profiles and how to change, and what it's such an opposite, because when I was working in London, we had to soften the water so much. Like London water is just so hard. It's sickly hard. I mean, if you ever boiled a kettle down in London, you know what I'm talking about. It's lime scale central. So anyway, it's an opposite problem up here, and what I landed upon adding bicarbonate. And a lot of brewers say, "Oh, be wary about adding bicarbonate because you're essentially adding sodium, salt, or quite a bit of salt. So you got to watch that content," which I did, and I pushed it to like the upper limits that you want for sodium in the water, and hardened it enough. But I'm pretty happy with the result, because it's like a porter. It's not supposed to be a stout. It's not supposed to be stouty. It's supposed to be quite. I would say generally it's thinner style of beer. I'm not just saying that because this porter is quite thick. You can get imperial porters, stronger porters, and session porters that are quite thick, but this one is not super thick. I would say it's probably like just under medium bodied, which I'm pretty happy with, because it makes it moreish, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely and it's got that factor of you could drink and you could session it. I mean, you could session that. Even though the ABV is quite high for a porter on its own right, with any sort of, but it is. I mean, that's session. I mean that the initial taste. There's no hint of that being a strong beer in your palate, which is what I define sessionability. Whether I would session it and want to be on a session with it is a different matter, because but it definitely is on the sessionability radar, because it has got that medium body that you're saying that it's not as thick as like your stouts and your 2 minutes stouts, but you've got that. There's that factor to it that basically can't beer again. A really good beer again. I'm really
cheers, man.
I appreciate it. But you, what's your verdict on it?
Well, I think we've got the detail on that is phenomenal, Harry, and I hope the viewers are appreciating this. This is a real insight, and again, we'll thank you properly, but thanks so far for what you've shown. But I know you're a guest. We're going to give it to you. We're going to give it to you double barrels here with it scoring. So, Brenny, in the interest of, I don't know, fairness, I'll go first on this one if that's all right, big man.
That's absolutely fine. Good.
So, 5.9%, I'm looking at it, right?
It's hard to believe.
It's not a 5.9% beer. I don't know if that's a lot to do with the 13 malts you've used. Having heard the actual effort and the technique that's went into this, I think it really should. And because it tastes bloody brilliant, I would definitely buy that again. 5.9% sessionable. Do you sesh a porter? Oh, I'm going to say yes, viewers, on that one. Not trying to be nice to Harry. I'm just going to say yes because it's just a lovely. And see, because you're having it out of the wee stubbies, it doesn't feel as if it's a big one, but it's still the 330ml. But yeah, sessionable, yes. Score wise, now I really enjoyed the squeaker. Oh, it's a difficult one, and I'm probably going to procrastinate a wee bit here, Brenny. Sorry, Harry. I don't like to judge one of your beers over another one, but it's difficult when you're in the room.
It's all right. I mean, if you give it a bad score, I will walk out.
Okay, right. For that reason,
be honest.
Right, for that reason, right? We're not, walking out. We're not having you doing a BGs on us. So I'm going to give it an 8.75 as well.
Bloody hell! Brilliant. Yeah. Cheers.
Fair. It really
is. Very much.
Well done.
Oh, thanks very much. Cheers. So I'm liking it tonight.
So, from my point of view, that's the beer of the night for me. I really liked your table session beer. Really enjoyed it. But that's more my style, I have to admit. Like the higher strength sort of. And there's what I really like about it is the body. That it does it's almost like a dark ale. Do you know, there's an element of dark ale in it that's not so much porter. It's got the taste of a porter without a doubt, but it's got the body of a darker ale that I'm really enjoying, and I'm not having any hint of the alcohol content. So based on that, would I sesh it? Yes, definitely. It's the sort of beer I would love to just have like 4 or 5 of them and just end up going to my bed. Absolutely wrecked. and would I buy again? Well, that goes with saying with the sessionability of it. Definitely buy again. Really enjoying it. Score-wise, I'm going to go higher than what I scored your session beer. I'm giving it an 8.8, and it really is. It's a really moreish. I do want more. I've drank that quicker than I've drank the table beer. That's tells you everything you need to know. Do you know, it's gone down so well, and it is all about the body of it. The tastes are all the porter tastes that you come to expect, but the body of that's really going on about the water. Probably has had an effect on my thinking of it, because I feel as if it's a Glasgow beer. I really feel that it's a real Glasgow beer. You can really sense that it's been brewed here locally, and I think listening to you talking about the levels of acidity or whatever else within the water, etc., it's just made me look. That's my beer of the night. It's an 8.8, so I am really happy with it.
So,
cheers, man! Thanks so much, guys. Yeah,
cheers.
BEELZEBUB. Thanks so much. Yeah.
It's definitely got a wee bit of devil on it. It's definitely got a wee bit of devil on it.
I love the fact as well.
I really appreciate that, guys. Thanks so much. I mean, just a short on that, like picking up on like the idea that it's a Glasgow beer. I mean, that's what I was going for. I wanted like a Glasgow porter. Like stylistically, it's a London porter, but it's brewed with Glasgow water.
Yeah.
And I didn't I didn't do much to it other than add a bit of bicarbonate just to harden it a little bit. But as you can tell, it hasn't made it that thick. So it's
no thickness slightest. Even by comparison to the sort of porters you get for the brewers up in like, Fine Nails and wherever else, and Cromarty, etc. That has got its own unique body to it, which I think is very, very Glaswegian. It is very Glaswegian. It's tannable at an alcohol level that I think suits the market in the city. That's it. You've nailed it. You have absolutely nailed it. It's brilliant.
So, cheers, man. Thanks very much.
Harry, Brenny, have we earned the right to give the viewers a wee exclusive for us, Harry? Because if you're watching this, you might notice over Harry's left shoulder there, he's got the kegerator up there. And you've got a bit. In fact, before you do this, you've been teasing people on the socials. We've seen the colour of your new beer, which is a Passionfruit and Tamarind Sour. Now, I'm not asking you to tell us what the name is or anything like that. I'm not asking you to ask for that. But is there any chance? I mean, if you could tell us whereabouts you are and the kind of process with that, and if you're maybe going to taste it tonight a wee bit for us live on the channel.
Yeah, that would be great. I had it in the fridge for like an hour now, or a bit longer. So yeah, it's definitely ready to sample. So this is Basant, BASANT, which is the next beer release. It's being released next week. It's going to be in all the Glasgow bottle shops, hopefully by the end of next week. Hopefully get them out by Monday, maybe Tuesday. And before that, I've got to launch at Rye Brewing Company. So I've done a few kegs with the pubs and the bars reopening. I've packaged about six kegs. So yeah, I'm going to launch the first one this Friday at Rye Brewing Company. Brilliant. So if you want to bring down your growlers to Rye Brewing Company, which is in Tradeston in the south side, I think they open, you might have to look up on Google, but they open in the early evening for those, if not earlier. So coming down if you want a growler of that, and also they're great beers as well. They've got some absolutely banging beers on at the moment. Plug.
That's what you're here for.
Enough of that. But yeah, in bottle shops as well, that will be next week. I've actually got a keg over to the Hanging Bat in Edinburgh, so that will be there. That'll be ready for the reopening on Monday. So yeah, if you're that side, then you can get it there. But I'm also hopefully going to get in a few bottle shops over there as well. Cork and Cask, they take it. Beer Hive, they take it. They've taken the beers before, I mean. So yeah, quite a few places over there to take the beers. So look out for some independent bottle shops over in Edinburgh as well. Yeah, anyway, without further ado, yeah, so this beer is a Passionfruit and Tamarind Sour that's been in bottle for I packaged it Tuesday last week, so it's probably a little bit too early. You want to give it at least 10 days in bottle to condition properly, so for all the sugars to be eaten. But I think we've had a fairly warm week. I've got my thermometer in here and it's bang on 20 degrees, so I reckon it's a good time to test it and see where it's at. So yeah, I'll grab it out of the fridge.
Magic.
I'm really sorry I wasn't prepared enough and gave you an exclusive and delivered a beer.
Listen, we're used to this. The channel's full of people that we know saying, yeah, I happened to be there when I tasted it. So this is us bringing it to the viewers.
This is it. I'll put my camera back on so I can just see what I'm holding up to you. So this is it. This is Basant.
Yeah.
Which is the name of a Punjabi spring festival, kind of celebrating the coming of spring, the coming of life. My granddad, he grew up in the Punjab, and this beer is kind of inspired by him. He took me to some amazing Punjabi restaurants as a kid, and I fell in love with lassies alongside the curries there, and sometimes use tamarind as well in the curries if it's cooking. So yeah, this beer is inspired a little bit by him, and also Fresh and Fruity. Got a shout out to Fresh and Fruity. It's my local grocers just down the road. Shahida, who runs that. It's an amazing little fruitiers. It's got amazing exotic fruits that you've never even heard of before, and they put me onto some really ripe tamarinds at the start of the year. I tell you what, it made winter a lot easier to cope with, tasting like really ripe sweet tamarinds, and that's when I fell in love with the flavor again of tamarind. So I thought this has to pair something like nicely with something. So I got a bunch of different exotic fruits, mango, one of them lychees, and that didn't really work. But passion fruit and tamarind seem to go really well together because the tartness is quite similar. But then the passion fruit tartness is just like way up here, and the tamarind is not like it's not as tart. So you get more alongside the passion fruit when you combine it. You get more of the umami flavors from the tamarind. You get the kind of like nutty chocolate, savory flavors. So that was the plan, and yeah, fingers crossed, eh? Yeah, I've bigged it up now. It's going to taste like shit.
But it doesn't.
I'm convinced it will be amazing.
I love the fact as well, again, the locality, everything about the locality, everything about the community with that beer, the story, your grandfather, that's fantastic.
Oh, cheers. Yeah. Just try and get inspired by different little things here, and also the artwork. I get a bit inspired by the artwork. So this is a beautiful artwork by Saskia Singer, who I met a few years ago now, and she just these amazing, colourful patterned prints that I just thought would be perfect for this beer, and she's hit the nail on the head here. So yeah.
Stunning.
And I was talking over the taking the cap off, but there was a little so
yes.
It's carbonated. It's carbonated. That's the main thing.
Good.
I can sleep easy now. A lot of brewers will say they won't. They don't sleep that easy before they can taste it. But here we go. So yeah, let's get the colour on the go here.
That's a nice bit of glassware you've got there as well.
Oh yeah, got a little bit of branded glassware.
Love
that
it.
my mate at Moondog Printing, she does it for me.
Brilliant.
Get a little gift pack if you want a gift pack of Dookit beers. You can. That's still on the website.
Well. I've seen that. That looks good.
Oh, it's definitely carbon.
It's definitely carb. Yeah. So that's and not
good.
too much sediment either. So I used a German ale yeast for this beer that is very tolerant with lactobacillus. So, and one of the properties is it just doesn't fluctuate. So you end up with a very hazy beer, which is kind of what I wanted. So try and get a bit of light on this. It's getting darker and darker, but
it's like no bad.
It does look good.
You see that quite clear. It's not bad at all.
Oh yeah.
Good, clear. It's nice.
It's looking quite a lot like the table bit. It's a bit brighter than it is in the shot there, but yeah, it's carbonated, which is the main thing. And it smells like passion fruits.
Good.
Success.
I mean, I bloody hope so. I spent a bloody fortune on the passion fruit. So that stuff is not cheap. So I put in 80 grams per litre of passion fruit puree, which is a lot. I mean, people put in a lot more as well, but I didn't want it to be. Well, actually, I'm not going to pretend I couldn't afford any more. That was my maximum. So 80 grams per litre of passion fruit puree, which is something like 60 kilograms, which was a fun day. Richard, shout out to Richard at Ride for helping me put that in. And a little tiny bit of tamarind. So yeah, a little. This is slightly interesting. Before I taste it, I got so like carried away with this passion fruit and tamarind pairing that I made a little test brew, and I got a little 500 gram test batch of the tamarind paste, and the tamarind paste looks like engine oil. It's so thick. It's like it's opaque brown thick sludge. And so I was like, yeah, 50-50, like put just as much tamarind and passion fruit, and it tasted great, but it looked like a muddy puddle. So yeah, I had to like, you know, for it to be a spring sour and look like this and not too murky, I've only put in a tiny amount of tamarind, just to kind of, you know, add something to it but not take over. So on the nose, I'm getting mainly like kind of this passion fruit mixed with a lot of like wheaty flavors that you get with Berliner Weiss. No, yeah, the tamarind's playing a much bigger part than it was before bottling. No, that's great. That's what's so great about carbonation. It sometimes it can lift flavors that are in the beer, but like it permeates them. Yeah, so the tamarind's really dominant actually. Well, not dominant, but yeah, big hit of lactose sourness coupled with like passion fruit, and then tamarind, which is just usually by itself, right? Tamarinds is just really, really sharp. Well, not really sharp, but an acidity that is a punch in the face. But because the passion fruit is even sharper, you just get this like umami-ness. You get this like woody, almost like a woodiness, like a nutty woodiness. No, that's I'm liking that.
Okay, listen.
This is taking posting beer pictures to a new level, Bilko. I mean, we've got a group chat. We've got a group chat with Dom and our pal Bruce and me and Bilko, and it's like beer pictures getting posted all day, every day. This is taking it to a new level.
Yeah.
I actually just want a Basant right now. I just want a Basant.
I'm fucking jealous,
I could literally just say, give me one of them right now.
I'm raging, by the way. I'm raging. I thought this would be good, but this is actually making me even more jealous. You know what I mean?
Right. Boys, where do you stay? As a thank you, I've definitely got to drop off some Basants. Yeah, where do you stay?
Listen, we're south side, but listen, I actually work in Tradeston, so I'll nip down. I'll pick up a growler on Friday after my work. Promise you.
Nice one,
Right.
nice one. Well, I'm going to be there as well, just to taste it as well. So I might see you there, mate. But
that'd be great.
So viewers, I mean that is we promised an exclusive. I don't think you can get fresher from the man that made it, the man that's brewed it. A fantastic insight to what it is. And I know I'll certainly be rushing down on Friday night. The video will probably be out after Friday night, but we'll try and get the video out this weekend. And if you see this anywhere in your local bottle shops, or if you see it on Instagram, because I'm sure, you know, one thing I've noticed, you know, like Jake Balls post it, Keith Hanna, all the boys we know on Instagram will post it. If you see it, tell your local bottle shop to get it and stock it, because... But I tell you, Harry, I love this story, mate. And I'm telling you, I love the fact that you've done something during lockdown. You've taken your passion from all those years ago. You obviously gained the experience, and it's those wee little things, and you've actually got a product to show for it. So I think Brenny, I think we'll give him a wee.
Cheers, lads. Yeah, well, right back at you as well. You've, you know, not sat in your Todd during the lockdown of last year, and you know, you've done something that you are really good at, really like proud of, rightly so, and doing something that is bringing you some fucking cheer, right?
And hopefully more importantly, hopefully bringing a bit of cheer to other people as well. Yes. I mean, we're doing it for us. We do it for us.
It's all about the community.
Us through it. But the fact is, other people do watch it, and you get your pals watching it, you get folk abroad watching it, and that's what it is. It's just about building a wee community around about something that we're doing. And it's
exactly, and you know, like, I mean, beer is, to me, is made so people can chat to each other, right? So like, as much as we like to talk about the geeky side of brewing beer and everything, like, you know, it's meant to make people a little bit looser so they can chat and feel you know. So without that like part in our culture and society, it is a very weird situation that we're in. So you're bringing something a bit of normality back. So yeah, cheers to you two as well.
No, cheers to you, man.
Cheers, man.
To you. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Exactly. Now,
Absolute pleasure, Bilko.
Let's stop the Mutual Appreciation Society and let's just get back to the schedule. That's all right.
Schedule.
But believe it or not, we are kinda. You've kind of touched upon it there, Harry, and I can tell you're really. I can tell you're happy. I can tell you're happy with that. It's great to see your face in that, smelling it and tasting it.
Yeah.
As a,
pretty
it's
happy with that.
interesting. I didn't actually realise you were from South London until we'd met tonight virtually. And I can tell well, it's obvious if anybody's watching this and through your branding that the Scottish community has had a big effect on your brand and on your products.
Yeah.
Community, you did mention there about beer. We talk about community a lot on the channel, and me and Brenny in particular speaks fantastic about it. How I was going to ask you how important is beer to the community. You kind of touched on it already, but I would actually go one step further and say, as an Englishman coming up to Glasgow, as being an outsider, etc., you've obviously been embraced by the local community as well. So can you just talk about maybe the community and maybe like the Scottish scene a wee bit, and maybe even what it means to you, that kind of stuff, if you can, just for the viewers?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the overriding reason why I'm still in beer and want to, make a life of it, really. And it is the community in beer. I think I'm not exaggerating here, because my background's in music, and the music industry is, as you know, is pretty unforgiving and not the friendliest of industries at times. Where I've always found like the beer community down in London, and definitely up here, has been super welcoming, super friendly. And I'm sure every brewer up and down the country, all around the world, will say, so and so down the road brewing similar beers is of course we're in competition, but it never feels like that. It's always a very kind of, of course you get your one brewer here and there who's not friendly. They're everywhere, but people are. But sorry, I'm rambling again. But in terms of the industry as a whole, it's always just been very friendly, so a nice place to be in, and that's something that's always drawn me back to it and keeps me going in it.
Absolutely. I think there's a real thriving community, and I think Glasgow's definitely going to be a city to watch. Dare I say it, obviously you've got your big hitters, but it's still quite a fledgling beer scene, I would say, when it comes to this kind of thing. And I have to say, with people like yourself coming into it, thriving here and getting your producing here, using ingredients, local influences, that's only going to help. So it's fantastic that you're bringing your experience from London up here. I would definitely say that. And on your website, and you touched on it earlier, you did say that one of your ambitions was to open a tap room. You better get that name trademarked, Dookit. That's going to be a belter. Now, obviously, the first brew that's going to be on there will be Bilko's brew. Will be on tap, I believe.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, good stuff. But I do want to touch on it. You've named loads of your friends and your associates here, but is there any other kind of Glasgow breweries that you want to mention? Any beers in particular that you really like?
Of course. Well, yeah. Let me come back to Bilko's beer as well briefly. Yeah, I mean that 100-litre kit that is still knocking about is a great wee kit. It's a very similar kit to Eric at Bowden Brewing. He started off a 100-litre kit as well. Anyway, when I do open the kit, the micro pub, the tap room, I want that 100-litre kit there as a little pilot kit. So definitely come along, brew a beer, and we'll get it on the taps.
Brilliant, mate.
But without getting ahead of myself too much,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been thinking a lot these past few months about like direction to go down, and yeah, I could go down, you know, get a premises, build a brewery, seek quite a lot of investment, funding, capital of some way, and open a brewery tap room, which is like where I cut my teeth at Canopy. Really, that's their premise, and it worked really, really well. It still works really well for them. It's a huge ask though, and it's something that a lot of people have done and have done really, really well. So I'm not too sure if I want to go down that route. So the idea of a micro pub, and keep on brewing nomadically at Ride or whoever takes me, whoever has space. But then I mean, I've since moving up here 2 years ago, you know, I try to get I tried every brewery. I tried every brewery in Glasgow, outside of Glasgow, East Coast. I met the guys at Top Out, but that, you know, a Belfield brewery as well. That was one of my first job interviews as well. So from the get-go, I met all these brewers up here, and I didn't, you know, when moving up here, unfortunately didn't land a brewing job. So I got more into events again. I used to be an event manager at that pub I mentioned. So, and then I put on the Barrows Beer Bash.
Yeah.
With help of the directors at the venue there. And that got me, you know, really proactive about going out and meeting the brewers and getting even more enthusiastic than I ever was before about beer and like the community around beer, and how much like excitement it can bring to people's lives. So that I got that was a massive success. The first beer bash, that was 2019. So that got me meeting Chris at Dead End, like really lovely guy. Meeting Chris at Overtone as well. Well, at Merchant City first of all, now at Overtone. Sorry, no, that was James. Sorry. And so James is now at Overtone, and he was a lovely guy who, you know, kind of taught me like, well, yeah, you know, we hit it off, and it's the same as all the other brewers as well. Ian Glasgow at Conic Brewing, he came along to that. Sandy at Two Towns Down, Jake, of course, up front, and all these brewers are just so affable and approachable, and they wanted to be a part of it and wanted to sell beer and wanted to, you know, meet the people who were drinking the beer. And that first event was a real great success. So that was kind of a real obvious sign of like the beer community. And as you said, it was. I think you're right. I think it is still fledgling. So I think it's still like kind of, there's amazing beer being made, and there has been amazing beer being made in Glasgow for ages. But I think in the last like 3-4 years, it's like really like the quality of the beer has like improved vastly. And I think some of the best brewers in the country, in Scotland and the UK, are in Glasgow.
We definitely agree.
And it's just like the infrastructure, I think, around that. So like the culture of tap rooms in, you know, industrial estates. I think it's just like, or little micro pubs mainly, or like the kind of culture of craft beer locations. I think that's kind of catching up a bit, which is another reason of why I want to go down that route. And I enjoy it so much as well. I enjoy, like, you know, chatting to these guys and, you know, being a part, well, kind of building, like help build the community and move it along, maybe.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Great words. I think when I said if there are any brewers watching, you know, I'm not being disrespectful with the word fledgling. I just mean compared to, you know, like your Leeds and Manchester, you know, these kind of places. And obviously the whole of Scotland. I'm actually having a wee pilot and dipper here because I was getting jealous of you drinking your Passionfruit and Tamarind Sour in Edinburgh. Great scene, Dundee.
Good shout.
Yeah, 100%. Fantastic. So conscious of the time, we don't want to take up loads of your time, just a couple of quick fire questions for you. First one being, if you've got one beer to drink for the rest of your life and you're not allowed to be one of your own, what's it going to be? What are you going to drink?
Oh, that's toughy. I think it has to be between two. I think it has to be between Augustina,
Yes.
or maybe Track Brewing down in Manchester. They're Sonoma. They're
Fantastic.
3.8% pale.
Aye.
Either one of those, maybe both. I don't know.
We've had
Two good beers.
We've had them both on several
brilliant
occasions. Again, we're going to link to, we don't want to be overkill, but if you want to see any of the stockists, we'll put links on the description. And most importantly, what I'll say if you're watching this tonight, viewers, or today, whenever you're watching it, follow the man, follow Dookit Brewing. Really, we're really, I can honestly say we're really excited to have you up here, Harry. And we're really excited to see what you're going to be doing next. I will just touch on one thing. I did notice that you do have your wee London connections down. You've still got a wee place down in London, book blocks. So you're still dipping in the London toes there. You've got a wee stockist down in London. Where's that?
Yeah. So Book Block's an online retailer. It's an old mate of mine who helps run a notebook company primarily, and I had no idea that they moved on to very different and all like equally big pastures. So the notebook side of things was a big side of the company, and then I think during lockdown, maybe earlier, they just started becoming like a full-on online retailer for gifts primarily. So they took a lot of beer off me for Christmas gifts, and that's just an online ordering. So if you're down in London or the South Coast, they will ship it out to you, no bother. People, and then a couple of bottle shops as well down there, 12-ounce bottle shop in Crouch End, and one of my old favourite haunts, Beer Shop London down in Nunhead. But hopefully a few more. I've got to shift some beer, so hopefully a few more soon.
So what's in terms of again? I know it's quite rude to ask brewers this question, but what have you got up your sleeve? Any kind of what's the kind of future plans? Any kind of other beers? Any wee tidbits you can give us? What you're working on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I got a couple of pretty exciting things and something quite exciting. So not going to be producing like loads of beer moving forwards. I'm going to be focusing on opening a space next year, so I'm going to be dividing my time between that and also putting out a few beers. But between now and the rest and the end of the year, there'll be definitely some exciting brews. So I'm going to rebrew the Southside Pale again, but with a different hop profile, just in time for the height of summer. Brilliant. So brewing with a little bit of Centennial, one of my favourite hops, and then I'm experimenting with some new German hop varieties, and I'm oohing and eyeing about whether to go down that route or maybe to stick around my firm favourites stateside, like Idaho 7, maybe Bravo, but we'll see with that one. And then I'm very tempted to brew a lager. I really wanted to brew a Helles. You can tell that I really like Augustina.
Do it. I'll buy. I'm telling you right now, I'll buy and buy again.
It might not be a Helles, it might be a Kolsch, just in terms of time. But we'll see on that front. And then really a kind of interesting, exciting project is a little barrel project that in the process of formulating alongside Kieran at Acid Brewing Cartel. So I met a guy, again, completely serendipitous. It just goes to show, always have a conversation with someone because you never know where it'll lead. And I was helping my girlfriend out deliver a frame because she's a framer as well as an artist. And I got chatting to the guy who turned out to be a independent whiskey bottler who's sitting on tons of casks and doesn't know what to do with them.
Superb.
So that coupled with the fact that this beer, the tamarind and passion fruit beer, I had to buy 25 kilograms of tamarind paste. You'll be laughing at this because I only needed about 7 kilograms, so I'm sitting on 18 kilograms of tamarind paste, and I don't know what to do with them other than cook a lot of curries. So the idea behind that is get an ex red wine barrel, something really, really fruity and juicy.
Yeah.
But then, well, whatever they have, but something, with a lot of a lot of fruitiness anyway, which you get generally with a red wine barrel. But then he's got a lot of Speyside whiskies that then were packaged into them. So I tried some of the whiskey that came out of the barrel, and it's got this like apricot, peachy, and a very sweet Speyside quality to it. So I want to chuck the tamarind in there, and the idea is I think I'm going to brew a dark sour, maybe in the style of an Oud Bruin or a Flemish red, but I think a bit more research is to be done, a bit more thinking, and most importantly, a bit more chatting to Kieran at Acid Brewing Cartel, the king of sour beers.
He is indeed. So we've been inundated with brewers' questions tonight, as per usual. We have a grand total of 1. I'm only joking. We've actually got a few we've just asked them throughout the recording. But one thing that keeps popping up, and we do like to ask fellow brewers, Brenny, fellow brewers.
I can't say it. You can see that, Bilko. I can't say it. I've never brewed it. I'm just a drinker.
Exactly. So
you're inspiring me, lad. You're inspiring me. I will be doing it.
I'll tell you, but now we've got our first order. It might take a while, but it gives us something to build towards, doesn't it? And we can get a wee shot of that 100-litre kit at some point. But all joking aside, I mean, the whole scene. I mean, one of the questions Bruce had asked was, do you think there's going to be like maybe a commercial kind of, when's it going to get commercial? There's been a lot of things happening this week, as we know. There's been a lot of chat about Vault City, etc., etc. I'm not going to we'll touch on that in future podcasts. But one thing that a topical thing is, adjuncts, and what is your view on them being used on adjuncts? What have you got a kind of take on that for us, Harry?
I don't have. I know a lot of people have a really strong opinion about them, and a lot of people say it's gotten too much, and like what next, and yada yada yada. But there's definitely a market for it. Like people really like drinking them. I work part time at Valhalla's Goat, the bottle shop over in Great Western Road, and which is really interesting actually. I see what people come in and what they're drinking, and a big question is, do you have any of that Stay Puft, that Tiny Rebel marshmallow porter? And like all the Tiny Rebel stuff is adjunct heavy, like, and they are showing that you can produce adjunct heavy crazy beers that taste really 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 good, are different, are catering to a very specific market, and that's okay. I always look back and historical beers and the idea of adjuncts being a thing that is a developing process throughout history. Hops in this country weren't used for hundreds of years. If someone turned around and put a heather in your pale tomorrow, you'd be like, get to fuck, right? But that's what they did for years up here. So I don't know. I this idea that anyone can have a really strong opinion about putting jam donuts in a beer. It's like, all right, well, they did it. Get over it, right? It's not, but personally, it's not my taste, and I'm more interested in finding those flavors in the malts, in the hops, and actually cracking open the Beelzebub again tonight was really interesting because I was going for chocolate raisins, a lot of special B, a lot of chocolate malt, but there's a lot of sweetness to that beer, and I think that's because of all the Cara Gold and Cara Malt that I used, and that's kind of bringing a sweetness that I didn't expect. It's brought a marshmallowy sweetness, which I've noticed before, but I definitely noticed it tonight drinking it. So you can achieve these flavors by not using by not using jam donuts, by not using, I mean, it's a lot harder and it's not as like in your face, like adjunct flavor, which you can get, which is some people's preference. But that's what I'm a bit more interested in, is how can you achieve like these complex flavor profiles by using, on the whole, the 4 flavors of the Reinskebot. So, you know, malt,
Brilliant.
yeast, water, and hops. But then again, I'm loving these fruited sours that I'm experimenting.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I don't think the Reinskebot has anything about tamarind, but who knows? Maybe they'll have a little footnote for me.
I love that. Absolutely love that. Love the fact you've got the tamarind in it. And I think at the end of the day, we've touched on this before, Brenny. It's all just good beer, innit? If it's making a good beer, and people enjoy it,
and people want it,
absolutely. It's whatever floats your boat. Absolutely.
I think there's enough. I think my personal take on it is that if people want to have marshmallow stouts and whatever else, and jam donut, whatever, it's up to them. You know, it's quite clearly labelled what it is. It's not as if you're having to imagine. Like most cans are quite blatant in telling you what they are, whether it be from subliminal marketing with not being obvious, and then you need to turn on the can and read exactly what you're buying, to the tiny rebel, which is, I'm full of this, of every single can. I mean, it's quite obvious on the tiny rebel stuff, like, I am full of whatever. And if you might buy it. If you don't.
Aye, exactly.
There's plenty good beer out there that everybody can be happy with what they're drinking.
So
everybody's got their own tastes.
Brenny, I take it then.
Couldn't agree more.
Yep, Brenny. So, and Harry, I don't know if you've seen it as well. So, Brenny, we're going to get a couple of cans of the old prawn cocktail ghost to try on the show.
I don't know. Listen, you know it's a democracy, and you're 50% of the democracy. So if you want it, we will review it. That's how it works. That's how it works.
We've been challenged.
That sounds amazing. I love a prawn cocktail. So that
exactly.
Exactly. That's our first collaboration right there.
So listen,
you're like, no, that's my idea. No collaboration.
We've got. Listen, I have to say it. I mean, we could be here all night talking to you, but I'm conscious of the time it's gone on. Thanks to anyone who's watched this for so long. But I have to say, a bit like a previous guest, Math Podcast 23 down at Tinworks. You've got a lot of similarities there in different ways. Things you've mentioned tonight, Harry, grandparents, all that kind of stuff, Brenny, all ties in. And of course, you've got the yeast maestro, the wizard, as he's known, Kieran, Podcast 22. Check out those podcasts if you haven't watched them, viewers. You might have noticed with me and Brenny, recently we have been trying to focus on quality and trying to focus on actually bringing you an insight into how these beers come to market, fresh, or supporting our locals, and that equates everywhere. Brenny, I'll come to you in a wee second, but Harry, before we kind of wind things up, is there anyone at all, you've shouted out everybody tonight, so you're just going to say no, right? But if is there anybody you do want to give a wee shout out? I know you've not been on YouTube before. Is there anybody you do want to mention, give them a wee bit of props or anything?
Well, I guess, yeah, you're right. I've done a lot of shout outs, but I mean, starting up something, and I know it's pretty small at the moment, but starting up anything is, you do rely on the kindness and the help of quite a lot of people. So, all the people I mentioned already, like Ride, they've massive shout out to them. Dave, Richard, Lucas, Johnny, Anna. Rita, the dog. Let's not forget about Rita. They've been like hugely accommodating, and I've got the experience in the past, but they've been massively patient with me on brew days and packaging days. So yeah, and also chucking in tons of tamarind in their tanks and making a sticky mess. So yeah, thanks for that. I guess one other quick shout out as well is to Williams brothers, Scott Williams in particularly, Chris Williams, Kat and Shona in the office, all the people at Valhalla Goat as well. I started up Dookit at the same time as working, first of all, in the homebrew shop over in Partick, and then helping out with deliveries at Valhalla Goat, which I still do, and working in the shop there. They've been hugely encouraging, really, really, really helpful, and yeah, got to definitely shout out to them.
Harry, I'm going to jump in here. Harry's been very modest, and he's mentioned one of his main stockists obviously is Valhalla's Goat, and he's maybe not mentioned that because of the connections there. So, you know, you can buy his beers there as well. This has been, you know, up there with one of the best podcasts we've done, Brenny, so far.
Yes, totally.
I would just
great insight. Really
great insight. Thank you, Harry.
Cheers. It's been a real fun experience.
Yeah,
really good listening to your story, Harry. Just and it is really a small world when you start talking about how everybody's experiences, etc., and where you're from, and then you end up like that, knowing people in the area, being in the area. You know, it's really interesting that you made a cracking point earlier on about just always make sure whoever you're talking to, you listen to them and develop the conversation, because you never know where that conversation is going to go. And I think that's the ethos of what me and Bilko are trying to do. Try to get people onto the show, to listen to their story, listen to what they're doing, and get inspired by it. And you're definitely inspiring other people around about you to produce good beer and the standard that you're making it, because it's really good beer. And I hope you continue and really just keep doing what you're doing with the goal and the dream. Because the dream of Dookit, having a wee microbrewer pub in the south side of Glasgow, called the Dookit, with you running it, would be absolutely amazing in the local community. I think people would absolutely adore it. So keep the dream alive, and I can only speak for myself in saying that it would be definitely one of the places I'd be going to on a regular basis and get a couple of beers. So
100%. So
cheers.
Thanks a lot. So viewers, I think we'll all agree that's going to be a massive from everybody tonight.
Cheers.
That's a massive cheers, viewers. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, Harry.